morning. It's 6 minutes after 7. I'm Vatican Loki. Thanks for joining me this morning. As far as the media since Katrina in the new New Orleans, they call it. Media here is slowly but surely coming to find out what the new normal is. It's easier here. It's easier to live here. It's easier to exist here. It's easier to be yourself here. The city just accepts you. And once the city accepts you, you know that you're part of a large family. Even though you may not know a soul in the city, when you walk through the streets of New Orleans, you feel like you're at home. And maybe that's the most important aspect of the city. It feels like home.
There are some misconceptions out there, thanks to the media and the way the media presents New Orleans to the rest of the country and the world. That's not what New Orleans truly is. New Orleans is a gumbo. New Orleans is laissez le bon temps rouler. It's laissez-faire, or let people do. People think when they see the media showing Mardi Gras, showing your breasts for beads and the drunken revelry, that may be part of it, but a lot of that really built up in the early 70s when the collegiate mindsets came here on spring break, and that is what we're having to fight through.
Sorry, baby, I love you.
You can drink outside. $3 beers for 32 ounces. That's good enough.
The first time I came to Bourbon Street, I was about 12 or 13 years old with my parents. And walking up and down the street, this is about 1969, 1970. And as we were walking past all the topless joints, I remember my mother holding her hand across my eyes saying, "Don't look, don't look." And my dad said, "No, let the man look, it's all right." And I've been coming down here ever since, and it ain't spoiled me yet.
I like Bourbon Street because I can be anybody I want to be. All right.
We're here to party.
Have a good time, find some naked women.
I live here and I'm just showing them the rounds.
Bourbon Street is a gumbo of culture. It's a cesspool of fuck-uppery. People come out here to get shit-faced and have a good fucking time. That's what Bourbon Street is all about.
The interesting thing about Bourbon Street, I think from an outsider, we're from New York, is that it's very different from the other part of New Orleans that we came to see. The minute that you get onto onto Bourbon Street, it feels like it's mayhem and lights and strip clubs and all of that stuff. And when you get off of Bourbon Street, you really see the beauty of it, where I think Bourbon kind of takes away from that.
Bourbon Street is Disneyland of decadence. I mean, it's if that's what you want, if you want to rub into people all night long and be pushed and jostled and have to buy a drink as soon as you walk through the door, that's Bourbon Street. The rest of New Orleans, that's the closest you'll get to being a local is, the Faubourg Marigny and Frenchman and Lower Decatur. I think that's the closest you get to being a New Orleanian without having to move here and hang out for a while. there's a huge art scene. You know, when I first moved here, I went to all the art openings. It's like there's all kinds. There's a million scenes here that I could take you to a couple. But I mean, you know, there's a million that I don't know about either.
Creative people in the rest of the world are like a commodity. There aren't a whole lot of them around, so when people do find truly talented people, they do their best to hold on to them. In this city, it's not a commodity so much as a natural resource. We have more talented, creative people per square inch here than any place else in the world.
This is an ongoing series of more produced, depth-oriented, thematic stills, like trying to make so much going on at one time and in a short amount of time to create a still that says so much. And in photography and in printmaking, we're like tricksters, right? We're taking a three-dimensional emotion. We're seeing people. I can touch you right now. We're making it 2D. We're minus one dimension, and we're trying to fool you in creating depth and seeing that image again. And working out here with friends and with props and with people who want to help out to create that, that's just the most fun in the world.
Sad song.
Right after the storm, there was no conversation that didn't revolve around the storm. And it's slowly, the peaks and valleys started, you know, mellowing out until trying to just get on with our lives. So there's only so much talking something through you can do before you're just done. And I would say most of us are done talking about it.
I guess we've always been a passionate city. We've been a passionate people. But I think since Katrina, there's passion with a purpose. You know, we want to do it in spite of the hurricane. We want to do it in spite of what people think of New Orleans. We want to do it in spite of the problems that we're having.
It's the only thing in New Orleans like it. There's a lot of similar places like this in New York, in Toronto, and Minneapolis, but nothing in New Orleans that is quite like this.
I feel like there's an opportunity for me here. Opportunity that I fit here. I sort of felt out of place in Nashville, so definitely fit here.
I think that New Orleans really caters to the creative energy. It has a thriving pulse, and you can really tap into the vibe here and really use it. I think it gives momentum to people's passions.
I've been in New Orleans for 17 years. I'm one of those people that lost everything in Katrina and came back. New Orleans is special first and foremost because of the way it smells. You know, magnolia, jasmine, piss, dead fish, the river, the water, and the flowers. And that to me is the primary draw. I love the smells of it. But also, I feel that New Orleans, it's okay to be who you are, no matter who you are. And that's a wonderful freedom that I love.
I had this whole gallery, and I built on the floor a schematic of the New Orleans levee system with marble chips. And then I filled it with rock salt and Louisiana sugar. And then I hand wrote the names of everyone who perished in Katrina. and that's how I give it away. You know, the experience of Katrina, I have my personal experience, but then there was a collective experience. And I feel like if I'm doing my job as an artist, I'm sharing the sort of articulation of that collective experience with everyone, and letting them take it. So many people took these heavy jars and they've got them on their shelves, so I don't have to carry it alone. We carry it as a community.
Probably the best opportunity for an artist to live alone in the Bywater right now, because it's, for one person, it's affordable. You can live here and not have a roommate and actually afford to live alone, which is nice.
Yeah, this is the chaos that I'm living in, and it's always usually mostly chaos, because I'm always cramped in small spaces, and my imagination usually outgrows wherever I am. And I'm finally just starting to make it in the arts. I'm not like my character. I'm more deliberate than my other self, more lucid in my musings, I suppose. I braved my old archive through those broken bits of my insanity. I have a tendency, I work with either color or pattern, sometimes both. Usually I'm walking around in a scheme of things, and I work on many different things at the same time. But through clever neurochemistry, I've since found better means or words to manage me. Psychosis and neurosis can be controllable in doses. This is the making of a dress back here, and this is the fabric, and it was for a bride that I may or may not be. It just depends on the hero of the story, who hasn't been seen or heard from, as far as I know, in 2 years from me. But he's still alive, this ghost of a man, and we'll see how that turns out. But we were together for 9 years, and he's a big muse. He's my muse. Now, all my molecules of thought are much more cohesively wrought. And since my frame of mind is more spacious, my dopamine receptors are considerably more gracious. My neural pathways are now expressways to collaborate and negotiate a better way to communicate. My neurotransmitters are most expedient in the synthesis. Am I making better sense like this? Never mind the science. I think I've got it figured out. Just trust me. That was way too much to think about.
Every day when we open the store, first thing we do before we let anybody in, before we answer the phone, before we deal with any customers, is we come in and basically remove ourselves from the outside world. Leave all the baggage at the door, leave all the life problems, everything, because when you come to work, you come totally to work to serve the community and serve whatever's going to walk through that door, which is always a surprise. We bury our dead above the ground, so we're always about the same level as our dead all the time. Most other places in the world, where we are right now, is 6 feet on the ground for them.
I was born right here in New Orleans, Louisiana, at Charity Hospital on Tulane, like a lot of the rest of us. It's a playground for artists, where you can kind of get your material together to kind of discover yourself as an artist, to see how you're going to present yourself, you know, to the rest of the world if you wanted to take it to that next level. This place allows you to do that.
There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man I like to be. What does he care if the world got trouble? What does he care if the land ain't free?
The reason I came to New Orleans is because of what you're looking at right here. Tulane University accepted me in the summer of 2004 to study for my PhD in international economic development. Now, my background, I had gotten a bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy. I moved on to become a teacher in Poland, and I got a master's degree in international education. And the focus on international betterment and development in various forms was really where my focus, my passion, my interest was. And so running of the bulls came as a result of me being asked to be an announcer for the Big Easy Roller Girls. And the only reason I became a member of the Big Easy Roller Girls was because of people I had met through Tulane University.
Roller Girls, we're a local roller derby team here in New Orleans, and we come and do this every year to help get our name out there and hit people with bats.
You're gonna hit them?
Yes.
You're not gonna use your horn?
No, we don't score them, we just hit them.
Roller Gale by. We ride little scooters. You'll see us come in a second.
Really? Oh, cool. So you're all on little motorcycles?
Yeah.
Little scooters.
There's something like this every 3 or 4 weeks, whether it's Halloween, New Year's, this festival, it just doesn't matter. Everyone here is so full of life. It's a really good place to live. Well, we're definitely going to run. This is 1/42nd of a marathon, and so this is probably the 4th or 5th 1/42nd of a marathon I've run in my life. I'm hoping to break 12 minutes. That's a big deal. That's beat the truth.
For he who drinks sangria with me today shall be my brother.
Cheers. About a mile and a half from here. Takes me about 6 to 7 minutes by bike to get here. So I'm up by 6:30, 7 every morning, and catch a 7:30 ferry over to be at work by 8 o'clock. I get an ice cream cart that I push out in the French Quarter. So drinks and ice cream, mostly water. Shade. I was a merchant marine for 20 years, so I've worked outside. I've had a varied life. This is like my third career. It's like a semi-retired job. The day is just getting started. I'm getting to feel a little bit better. Had a couple beers. So, my advice to you is drink heavily. If that doesn't work, drink some more. Yeah, well, how are you going to drink all day if you don't start in the morning? You got to get the stomach accustomed, See, my job, of course, my boss always tells me, no alcohol on the card. I tell him, it's not on the card, it's my hand, Dan. I mean, I've had several careers, and I've done this, I've done that, I've done the other thing, and I didn't know that this was what I was destined for, the ice cream salesman in the French Quarter. I mean, but it's a good job. I was talking to some businessman the other day, and I told him, he says, well, yeah, that sounds better than my job, and no stress. I looked out the sky one night, and it was this beautiful crescent moon, and as you guys know, this is the Crescent City, so that was a sure sign if you believe in omens. So here I am. Carefree, loose lifestyle, man. It's a party all the time. It's either an alcoholic's dream or an alcoholic's nightmare, depending on how you look at it,
Well, it is my pleasure and great privilege to tell you why we're here at Bacchanal at 600 Poland Avenue. People have come here so that they could see their own friends, support them, drink to excess, and have general fun. May God be with everyone in a grass skirt. It looks like I'm the only one in a grass skirt. May God be with everybody here. And if you have to sacrifice someone to a volcano, good luck trying to find a virgin.
This is actually two different groups of people that have come together. This is the Slow Burn Burlesque Collective, and we are actually another group called Combustible.
New Orleans is really an experiment in doing the most with the least. It's an experiment that's been going on now for 3 centuries.
I'm a criminal defense attorney during the day, and I moonlight as a bartender on the weekends. There's something about the feeling of this city that is unlike anywhere else I've ever lived. From the people to the way you feel like you're in a different country or, hundreds of years ago walking down the street sometimes. This amazing blend of modern and old, and the sense of community that I found while living here. It breaks my heart every time I go, and there's something about every time I leave the city, I'm drawn to come back. I find a reason to come back. One of the reasons that I love it so much is because it is a storytelling city. Everyone that you meet has a story, and if you're open to hearing it, people recognize that, and then they're open to the telling. And I think that that's probably the piece about New Orleans that touches me the most every time I come back.
There's a certain innovation of spirit that I find here, and kind of a lawlessness that I appreciate here. And what comes with the unfortunate side of lawlessness, which is, a fair amount of crime, is a lot of creative spirit as well. I think in some way they come in tandem, and I find that really interesting. It was wonderful because I came down here to work on the piece not having met too many people in the city. And I immediately set to work. I was one of the first artists in the Brickyard to arrive, so I cordoned off I claimed my spot quickly because it's definitely the best.
Right now, we're at the New Orleans Actors Co-op. And New Orleans Actors Co-op is a place where actors can come and just kind of nurture their actor ambitions. They can go try out skits, improvs, monologues, different things like that. And we meet here every Sunday.
I decided to take it seriously and learn the actual nuts and bolts of acting. And did that for a couple of years, and then my children started coming. And I had to kind of make a choice between either being like the mom I wanted to be or following the acting thing. And, you know, my babies came first. So put all the acting, actually pursuing acting on hold, but I was still able to study. My coach is Aaron Spicer, and he was just voted the best scene study coach in Los Angeles this year. So I learned learning how to critique actors by watching him critique, and then by, vicariously by watching other students on stage. And then I realized there was a need. A lot of actors are hitting an invisible wall, and they don't really know where to turn or who to ask questions, and or what steps to take. So I started kind of plotting around in my head and decided, look, a co-op would be ideal. If an actors group could get together, people who are veteran actors can teach the newer actors, or explain to them what's going on, and then also we can help one another develop our acting skills.
When I started at Nord, I was 16. If I could get the same kind of money doing live theater that I can in film, I'd never have any desire to do film. There's nothing like that rush you get when you go out on stage. You tell that first joke or whatever, and you feel that energy from the audience, man. It almost is like, I hate to make a comparison, but I would think it's almost like some sort of drug. In a play, it's linear. You start from A and you go to Z. But in film,
that's right.
You may jump from A to Z and then back, and so it's hard to get it. You have to compartmentalize what you're doing, and so it's the same. You don't get that sort of instant gratification back.
So the other thing is, I'm a big dork, and I love this city. I love learning about the history of the city and then sharing with other people. So I decided I was going to take a couple history courses, and Delgado Community College offered them in the evening. And one of them was a tour guiding class, and I thought, what the hell, let's do it, I have people coming from across the country and around the world to stay at my house all the time. It'd be good to actually know what I was talking about. So I took the course, and at the end they give you a test. If you pass it, then you can go and get your fingerprint, your drug test, and become a New Orleans licensed tour guide. And then I went on to become a member of the Louisiana Historical Society and continue to this day to show off just how much of a dork I am to hundreds of tourists a week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Andrew, and I shall be your guide for a pleasant little look at the seedy underbelly of haunted historical New Orleans. You can tell by the way I talk, I'm not from here originally. When I moved to the country about 5 years ago, I was instantly struck by how much New Orleans has in common with a third world developing country and not with the rest of America. And that translates to a jurisdictional and legal aspect as well. Consider this, 48 states in this country all use counties. Alaska, which is practically Russia, has boroughs. Only Louisiana, out of the entire country, has parishes. 49 states all use English common law. There's only one state in the Union that decides to do things completely differently, and that's Louisiana. Only Louisiana has a derivation of Napoleonic Code, which, among other things, very clearly states that pedestrians do not have the right of way. And in a state that offers drive-through alcoholic daiquiri service, you're screwed. McDonough 15 is the only public school in the French Quarter. It is an elementary school, 76 years old. Notable because of what happened here in 1958. During the filming of the movie King Creole, starring Elvis Presley. Some scenes were shot in and around the building. Now, while Elvis and his boys are taking a set break over here at the edge of the parking lot, 5th grade math class is going on the 3rd floor behind those 4 dimly lit windows. There's a little boy in 5th grade math class, more desperate than anyone else in the building, to see the king of rock and roll. Now, under the pretense of having to go to the bathroom, he rips out a shred of math homework, calmly exits the room, Van runs down the hall, down the back stairs, leaping out the back door, across the parking lot, straight up to Elvis Presley himself, waving around this piece of homework, asking for an autograph. Elvis is dazzled. Where did this kid come from? How did he manage to escape the hall monitors, teachers, get through other students, through my entourage? Incredible. So he signs the autograph, pats him on his head, sends him on his way. The kid makes it back to this rear door here where the lights are shining, entrance to the back of the building. And he calls out to him from the bench upon which he's standing. He says, "Hey kid, you're gonna be someone someday." And he was right. That scrap of math homework is currently framed, hanging on the wall behind the desk in this man's office. Because when that 5th grade math student grew to be an adult, he set into motion one of the most terrifying trends in all of American history. He was none other than Richard Simmons, sweating to the oldies, sequin pants, New Orleans. Who knew? Feel the burn, ladies. I'm a pony. I'm a pony. I'm a pony. Ta-da! Thank you, thank you, thank you.
John Lennon was the walrus. That was his alter ego. I am the moose. So I'm the guy who writes the moose songs. So this is the story of Mr. Moose. It's not factual, but it's true. Let me tell you about Mr. Moose. He don't wear no fancy shoes. He don't drive no great big car.
The most miraculous thing about New Orleans, I used to say that you could spit on the ground and a saliva tree would grow. It is the most fertile ground for creative enterprise I have ever witnessed. I've spent a quarter of a century traveling the world, living in 20 countries and traveling to another 30 or so, and I've never seen such a group of people in a place that are willing to do things. I recently came back from a retreat up in Northern Virginia, and we got a big bonfire going, and I tried to get everybody leaping around in loincloths, playing drums, and doing a quasi-voodoo ceremony. No one was really into it. They thought it was cultish, and they weren't interested in doing it. I tried something again in Wisconsin a couple months before. People just don't have that. Nowadays, here in New Orleans, not nowadays, but forever in New Orleans, if you have an idea, you ask someone, "Hey, let's go push a gigantic high-heel shoe down Rampart Street with a whole army of drag queens." Everyone's going to be like, "Oh, let me get my heels." They're going to be there with their sequins. Any idea you have, you can make it to something enormous, great, and beneficial towards others right here.
Mr. Moo, Mr. Moo, I just do it. Mr. Moose. John Lennon, they asked him that question once, and he says, "Why do you write songs?" And he says, "Well, I do it to justify my existence. And secondly, you find yourself doing it whether you want to or not."
You're a real musician.
Every musician here learned from their generation before them. Like a good New Orleans musician can play you any song from 3 centuries, the late 1800s, the whole 20th century, and whatever they wrote lately or whatever's come out lately. And they always could do that.
First of all, he asked me, what is your vision of other people's view of New Orleans? And I couldn't really think of one. And then I realized Well, we don't give a damn what other people think. Do we? I mean, really? We've always operated here by ourselves in this swamp, this strange place, where, thank God for Iberville and Bienville, two nice Canadian boys who were with like 4 canoes of Indians. And the youngest one, who was only 19, was left as his brother went up the river a little piece with a couple of Indians in a canoe. Here comes a big British ship full of settlers, right? And he doesn't stop, he doesn't quake. He gets in the canoes, paddles over to the ship, and says, no, 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 no. This country belongs to France. And the British captain not only turned around and believed the boy, he wrote in his log, let the French have this hellhole of pestilence and insects. So,
let's hear it for pestilence and insects!
But let's also hear it for the English turning around. So English turn is not just the name of a golf club. It's the name of the actual place where this happened.
There is something so seductive in a city.
New Orleans is really an experiment in doing the most with the least. It's an experiment that's been going on now for 3 centuries.
The love that people feel as soon as they arrive here is tangible. And if they don't have it, then they're normally gone within a year.
There's more positive here than the media wants the world to know. We are the most European city in the United States. You can't afford a trip to Europe? Come to New Orleans. We celebrate life, and I think that scares a lot of people, particularly those in the media.
We just don't care that much. Laissez-faire. Do what you want to. Laissez-faire. Be what you be. Laissez-faire. No one will stop you. Laissez-faire. If you don't bother me. When you visit our fair city, falling underneath her spell, she's that big fat mambo goddess, so she weaves it mighty well. There's a spirit that's within her that flows up into the street. Or sink your heels into the music, or feel it in your dancing feet. The city that can't forgot to remember, city of laissez-faire. She's the city that can't forgot to remember, city of laissez-faire. City of laissez-faire.
You know, the stories here are unending. In fact, New Orleans is an unending story. We came here to shoot a city in recovery, and we found a city in renaissance.
I may go away, but I come right back